All right, this is how I run reports, do transfer orders, and create purchase orders all at the same time. There's a lot of steps to it, and I will try to go through it as slow and accurate as possible. So go ahead and log into Celerant. First thing you want to do is, pick a vendor that you're trying to create a purchase order for, and you're going to want to run a report for that vendor or brand or department, whatever you're trying to do. So go ahead and hit reporting, and then hit reporting again in the drop down. And then down here under inventory reports, you want to click on this one that says IE buyers ordering 2024. So go ahead and click that. And this will give you a bunch of data for what you need for ordering and what's on hand. Right here is your sales filter date range. So you just select how far back you want to go and to look at the sales numbers. So I usually just go back 30 days to see what they sold in the last 30 days per store, and you already have all your stores selected. And then down here are your filters. You always want to leave this one, active items only. And then on top of that, you're going to add another filter for either a vendor or a brand. Depends on what you're looking for. So I'm going to go ahead and select vendors because that's usually how I would order. I want to see everything that a vendor carries. So let's choose this one. I'm going to choose Endless Distro. Hit OK. And this is going to pull all the items that Endless Distro has in Celerant. So go ahead and hit run. And you're going to see a little pop-up at the top right of your screen in just a second. So whenever this pops up, I usually hit this folder, and this will open up the folder where it's saved at. It's going to be saved in your desk or in your downloads. So you can see the downloads folder opens up. This is the file that it just downloaded. And from here, I usually rename it. So just click on it once to get it into your edit mode like that. And then I'm going to call it endless, just so I don't get confused on, what report I'm opening. Sometimes at the beginning of the day, I'll have a plan, like I'm going to order from these 5 vendors today. So I'll go ahead and run the report in the morning, and I'll have 5 different vendor files in this folder, and I'll just go through them throughout the day. So you can do that, or you can just run them one at a time. It doesn't matter. So before you open this one, you're going to want to open 2 things. You're going to want to open your ordering template. So this is the template that I created that makes the purchase order be created. It'll show you everything in a much readable version than what Celerant's pulling out of there. And you also want to open your transfer sheet template if you feel like there's items on there that you're going to want to have transferred around from store to store or out of the warehouse or whatever. So I usually have both of those open. In order to view the report properly, you have to have this buyer ordering template open. So I'm going to go ahead and open that one first. And that pops open on a different screen. I can only record one screen at a time, but this is what it would look like. It's just a blank Excel sheet. You don't really need this, but you do have to have it open in order to format that other report that you just downloaded. So you can go ahead and just minimize this. I'm back at the report that we just created. So go ahead and open that up. And this is what it looks like straight out of Celerant. So it's kind of hard to read, right? You can't see everything. Yeah, it's just hard to understand this. It's just a bunch of numbers, really. So in the background, you can see this ordering template open back up. Once again, you don't really need it open. It's not going to hurt anything, but you can minimize it again. So you can expand this. You can click anywhere in this report, doesn't matter where, and then you're going to have to run this code. Just type these three things in. It's Control Shift S, and this will format all of it to be much more readable. From here, it pulled everything from the vendor into this report, regardless of what the brand is or the department or whatever. And it's going to sort it alphabetically by brand first, then by description, and then by the color. So you can tell Endless Distribution, they have two different brands. They have Don't Trip, and if I scroll down, they also have Dozo. And it's going to do brand first, like I said, and then it's going to alphabetize the description for that brand. And if I go down to Dozo, it starts it over again. It's going to go to Dozo, and then it's going to go to the description, and then, alphabetically, brand, then description. And then it's going to go by color. So Dozo, Baby J's gelato, Dozo, Baby J's watermelon, and then it's going to go to Dozo, then the next alphabetically, Cart Diamond Sauce, Blue Dream, then Russian Cream, then White Widow, and so on. So it just alphabetizes it in order by these three columns. Now, if you ever want to change that, you can. You just hit this first row up here, this number 1 row. Just make sure that that's highlighted. Go to Data, and then Filter. Now you can sort or filter for anything in any of these columns. So let's say I want to put an order together, but I don't want anything from Don't Trip. I just want to order the Dozo products, and that's it. So I just hit this little arrow in the brand column and just choose Dozo only. Hit OK. Now it's only going to show me the Dozo stuff. And you can do that for any column on here. It becomes useful if you, let's say, want to look at just one store even. So if you want to have everything selected, but I only want to see what South Boulevard has on all of the products. So you can unselect that. I only want to look and see what South Boulevard has. And this kind of gives you a gauge of every single item that they have and how many. It's only going to show you the South Boulevard stuff. For ordering purposes, I usually don't filter any further than how this defaults. If you want to be able to read these columns a little bit easier, you can highlight starting with the A column. Just drag your mouse all the way across to the last column here. And in between any of these, as long as you have that cursor with the two arrows, it doesn't matter which one, you would just double click. And now it spreads everything out so you can kind of read these columns a little easier. If it kind of goes off the screen, you can come down here and hit this little minus button. And now you can see everything again. It just shrunk everything a little bit. So this report is going to show you what they currently have on hand for each store. It's going to show you the sales of whatever you had filtered, whatever the date range was. So this is how many they sold in the last 30 days from, 10/10 to 11/10. That's how many they sold. And then it's also going to show you the min and the max. This is going to be a range of 30 to 45 day period. And it's also going to show you the model stock. So that's going to be the number that we input to tell us how many the store should carry at any particular time, regardless of the sales. So this is more of just a manual way of telling the system this is how many a store should have. If it ever says 999, that means that store does not carry it. This is your average cost. This is the current retail. This is your in transit. This is if it ever has a negative number here, it's from the early days when we had issues with transfers and receiving and stuff when they had the bug. So if you ever see a negative in here, I will have to go in there and fix that. There should never be a negative in the in transit. If you see like this one, a 2, this is saying that you're having 2 of them transferred from somewhere into university, and university just hasn't received them yet, which is why their on hand still says 0. So they're still waiting on a box that has 2 of these in it. So just expect that whenever you're placing your order. You may not need to order something if you're just waiting on a store to receive the product. This is your on order column. So this just tells you if this item is on any open purchase order. We try to close the purchase orders once a month or after a couple of weeks. So if you see a number in here, it's more than likely a back order from an order that already came in and the purchase order just hasn't been closed yet. So I probably placed an order, at the end of the month last month, and it's only the 10th of November. So we probably just haven't closed that purchase order yet. And these were probably back ordered items. So I may not need to order these again. Maybe I should contact the vendor and say, I ordered these last time. Do you know when they're going to come in? We still haven't received them yet. So this kind of gauges if you actually need to order the item or not. This also has the case quantity if you ever want to fill that in. A lot of my products come in, multiple quantities in a box, and it's hard to keep up with. So I will use this a lot. I just happen to know that Dozo, everything comes in 5s, so I haven't really filled these out. But this is what do you call it? A mass editable field. So if you know that this entire vendor, everything that they have comes in a 5, you can change all of these at one time. You can just type in a 5 under your case quantity, and I can show you how to do that. And this is if it's on the website or not, yes or no. These are all no until you get here. So these are all on the website. These are not. And that'll also kind of tell you, do you want this item on the website or not? If so, you will have to click on prepare for web in the product. And I'll show you how to do that right now. So I'll open up a random product here. Just go to your product management, go into products. And if it's something in that report that said no, but it is something that you want to put online, you just want to find that item. Go ahead and hit the pencil. And then under the e-commerce options, you're going to want to click on prepare for web. So once this prepare for web is clicked, checkboxed, Zach will know to go ahead and start putting it online. It could take a while, it just depends on your communication with him, how quick you want it on there. But once you have that selected, he'll be able to filter all of the products that have this selected, and he knows what list he needs to start working on to get these items on the website. Once he has all of the descriptions and the pictures and everything, and it's all ready for the website, he's going to click on the sell on web. He's going to checkbox that, and then he's going to uncheckbox this one. So once this box right here is checked, the sell on web, that is when it will show up on that report as yes. Okay. Let's go back into the report. So that's everything that this is showing you on the report. And for ordering and transfer orders, you pretty much just go down this whole list and fill in this column for ordering at least. So there's your on hand. Here's what they sold. And I just look pretty much at those two numbers. Unless it's like a very high selling item like hydroxy, then I'll go off of like the min and the max. Because sometimes something that sells that quick, the sold is kind of skewed. You can only see what's selling in 30 days, and it doesn't really give you a projection of how much they might sell longer than that. And certain things like hydroxy, they could be sometimes hard to get. They run out of stock sometimes at the vendor. So if it says, like, for instance, let's just pretend this is hydroxy and they only have 50 of them left. Let's say they sold 100 of them. This number of your min is probably going to be somewhere right around 100, or give or take. This might be 175, because maybe the month before they sold more than 100. Maybe the sales go up and down and it fluctuates a lot more just because of the amount of sales they make on that particular product. So if it's something like this, they only have 50, they only sold 100, but I want a little bit of a buffer because I know they could easily sell more than 100. This may just happen to be a slower month or something. I'm going to go ahead and try to order 200, just so I know not to run out. So I'll try to aim more for that max number. That's just, one example. For something like Dozo, you can see the sales are not like that. I mainly just go off of what's sold in the last 30 days and try to get to that mark, maybe a little bit more. So, like, for instance, I'd probably get 5 here and 5 here just so that they look full. 5 here, 5 here, 5 here. And, with all of the, stores opening and such, it looks like I never carried them at North Main or Matthews yet. So therefore, I'd go into my model stock number, and I'd probably fix that and make that a 999, just so I know next time I order, I'm not going to order it for those two stores. This is something I should be doing, but time becomes an issue, and I sometimes just don't have time to fill in these numbers. Anyway, you can see, like, right here, I ordered 5, 5, and 5. But I can also see right here, I've already ordered 15, 10, and 10 from a previous purchase order. So this is telling me that they probably don't have these in stock, and I probably need to contact the vendor, because this looks like it could be a couple of purchase orders that are still open. I might still be waiting on a back order. So I don't really want to order 15 more of these. I'm probably going to email the vendor and say, hey, are these not available anymore or whatnot? And if they're not available anymore, then I'm going to put discontinue in my status. So just from running a report, you can kind of see all of the information all at one time, instead of having to go through like a normal purchase order, trying to find individual items, clicking on all these different tabs just to see who sold what in 30 days and how many each store has. And even when you're on a product, it's kind of hard to see the individual item, like the individual barcoded items. So if I was in this diamond cart sauce and it's telling me the quantities for each store, it's going to combine all of these colors. So to me, it's just easier to read. You can see each individual color. If you look at it, a SKU store list, it will break it apart, but it's also a much longer list. It's not really sorted correctly. So I usually try to do everything off of reports if I can. Moral of the story. So from here, I just go down this entire list, fill in the blanks. If it's something like, let's say this item here, where University only has one, South Boulevard has a couple that they could share or transfer. I'm going to go ahead and highlight 4 of these columns to the store that needs the item. So I see university needs this item. I'm going to go ahead and select the brand, the description, the color, and the store that it needs to go to. And I'm going to copy this. And I'm going to open my transfer order. Like I was saying before, the transfer order is the other sheet I have open on another screen. This is a lot easier to do when I have multiple screens. But because I'm recording, I can only use one. But this is your transfer order. And I have it copied from the report, and I'm just going to paste it directly into here. And then I don't have to type anything. So in your brand is where you want to paste it. So I just copied it in there. You can see it still has all that color background. You don't really want that. So I just go to control this drop down that comes in whenever you paste. And I want to use the paste value, just the 1, 2, 3 values. And that'll make it just, black and white, easier to read, less confusing. So this is saying the brand, the description, the attribute, what store it needs to go to. And all I got to do now is choose what store I want it to come from. South, I believe, is what it was. And then over here, how many do I want them to send? So let's just say I want them to send 2. So I didn't have to type anything in except for the number 2. Everything else I just copied over straight from the report. I selected what store it should come from, and then I put how many I want them to send, and that's it. So you can go back to your other report. It's very laggy here. And then you can go down to your next item and continue filling in the blanks. I'm not going to go through this entire thing, but I'll do another one of the transfer order. Let's say these guys could use a couple, right? Moorhead. So once again, I'm going to highlight the brand, description, color, and the store. And to do that, I just click on the brand and then just hold the mouse down and drag it over to right there. And then you can right click and hit copy, or you can hit Control C. I am more fond of using Control C, but you can do it however you want. Go back into your other Excel sheet, which down here, all 3 of them will pop up. You got your ordering template, the report that you're looking at, and then you have your transfer sheet. So open up your transfer sheet, go into your brand box, and paste it in there. You can do right click paste. Hit this little control drop down right here and do paste values 1, 2, 3. Now, what store did I want them to come from? I can't remember. So let's open your report again. And let's say I want them to come from Independence or something, right? It's a lot easier with multiple screens. So I want them to come from Independence, and I have them going to Moorhead. So let's say I want them to send, 2 of them. And you just go down this whole list. You don't have to type anything in except the quantity and choose what store they come from. And just go down your entire list, fill in whatever you want to buy. I'm just going to pick some random ones right now. It's not really accurate. If you ever see something that has a negative on hand, those are the ones that Cody and the GMs should be looking at. Or you should know that, hey, these numbers don't look right. Maybe we should do an inventory on them soon. So that kind of helps me gauge, how far off my numbers are, how often I need to get this stuff counted. And, once again, time is a factor in all of this. So it is difficult, but if I see a -4, they sold 28, something isn't right. I'm going to probably call the GM and say, how many of these do you have? If it's something like multiple items that are looking off like that, I'm just going to have them count the whole department or the whole vendor or brand or whatever. But the good thing about this report is it shows you everything. It shows you how many they have on hand, how many they sold. If the number does look off and they sell a lot of it, that's a problem, So this kind of helps me know the importance of what needs to be done and when, I guess. So I filled in a bunch of numbers here. Everything in red is what will be imported into your purchase order. Once you get to the bottom of the list, everything is done. You can hit the second set of code, the Control-Shift-F, to finish, and that will reformat this report in a way where Celerant can import it and read all the numbers properly. But you don't ever want to do that until you know that this order is completely done. There's nothing else you need to do to this thing. I have all my numbers in. Once you hit this second set of code, you cannot go back. You'll have to redo your order again, or you'll have to manually put the products onto the purchase order. So I have all these in. I don't plan on doing anything else. I have my transfer order complete of everything I want to get transferred. I'm only ordering a few things. Control-Shift-F, and it formats it to a way where Celerant can understand it. All it wants to know is the barcode, the store number, the quantity that you want ordered, and then the cost. And while you're placing the order, you can adjust your cost if you happen to know what the new cost is. If you're going off of a website or whatever, you can change the cost as you're going along. This just makes processing a lot quicker. So from here, you want to hit the save button. This will save it in this format, and it's still going to save it as the same file, endless. So hit save. You can close out of this now. You don't need it anymore. This is your transfer order. You can send this off. Usually I will also kind of format this so it's easier for the GMs to read. So to do that, I start with the first set of data here, the South Boulevard. I highlight the entire page all the way down because in real life, this is completely full of items. And then I want this sorted just so it's easier for them to read. So I'm going to sort it by the from store alphabetically and then to the to store alphabetically. So I do custom sort right here. Once everything's highlighted, go to sort, go to custom sort. And then I want to sort it by the from column. And then I'm going to add a level. And then I want it sorted by the to store column. And this will sort it. As you can see here, it says South Boulevard, obviously alphabetically. Independence should come above that. And if there were multiple items on here, it would start with Independence, and then it would go sort them by the to store, beyond that. So hit OK, and that switched the two from stores. And like I said, if there were more for Independence as a from store and then to store, it would also sort your to store as well. It's just easier for them to read this stuff. So all they got to do is go down the list, circle this, transfer it off. Once you have this sorted the correct way, you can go to File, Save As. You don't want it saved as your transfer sheet template because this is the template. You're going to reuse this file over and over and over. So I usually save this to my desktop, and I'll call it, page 1, or, you can call it, tobacco transfers or whatever you want to call it. So I already have a page 1, I have a page 2, so this one would be my page 3. And once I have all those saved, I would send it off. I would email them. So once you have that saved, you don't need it anymore. Now you can go back into Celerant. This was just that product I was showing you. You don't need that. You're going to go to vendor management just like you were to, make a purchase order. But instead of clicking on purchase order, you're going to go to PO RTV data import. So this is where you're going to import that file you just saved. and it's going to create a purchase order out of that. So from here, you want to find your vendor. Your vendor was endless. You can search for it if you have to. I just know that end is the vendor code, so that's what I'm going to search for. Highlight it, hit OK, and now it's going to create a purchase order for Endless Distro. The next thing you need to fill out here is the level. What level of data is going to be imported? So that's pretty much saying you want all 4 columns that were on that report. That's what you want imported, the 4 different columns. That's going to be the last selection here. You want the barcode, the quantity, the store, and the cost. And if you remember, on that report, these are the 4 columns that it saved. Now you're going to browse for the file and choose that file that you want imported. Once you hit browse, it's going to take you, normally it's going to take you into your downloads folder where that file is. So you just have to select that file. So you can double click it or highlight it and click open. Those are the only things you need to fill out on this page. Once you have those in, hit next. And from here, you just need to map those columns. So you want barcode to be barcode. You want quantity to be the quantity. You want the store to be the store, and you want cost to be cost. So you just need to tell Celerant these columns these pieces of data represent these columns on that form that you just made. Right here is just an example of the data, so you know that you're choosing the right thing. The barcode, this is the barcode of the first item. Quantity was 0. Store is store 1, and so on. You get it. You're just matching the column headers. Once you have all those in there, hit next. And this is the list of everything that you had on that report that you want ordered. So it does not put anything on this purchase order that you had 0 on. So if you didn't fill it in, it's not going to put it on there. It's only going to put the items on there that you had quantities for. The only thing you need to look at here is the invalid scans. There really shouldn't be any. If there is, then there's probably some kind of barcode issue. I think I've only seen it happen maybe once. So you should never run into this problem. You just want to make sure that this number is a 0. That's all. If there is an invalid scan, it'll pop up down here in this bottom box. From here, you do not need to print the document. You can always uncheck that every time. Go ahead and hit save. And this just created a purchase order, number 519. Asks you, do you want to open it? You always want to open it. So go ahead and hit yes. And this is more of what you're familiar with. This is just a normal purchase order, and it has all your items down here. Everything you filled out on that form will be put in here. So from here, you always want to put your buyer. This is why you have to open the purchase order after your import. So you want to choose some of this extra information. Put yourself in as the buyer. You still have to set your distribution. So distribution, pre-distro, into the warehouse. And that is pretty much it. If you need to add any new items, this is when you would do it. Let's say you just know that a company that you're buying from has an item that maybe is set under a different vendor or something. You can always add new products, or you can find products that are currently in there, and you can still add it onto here. This is still, you can still edit onto this purchase order. What else? That is about it. From up here, you can choose to print or not print. That's up to you. If you do print it, you always want to use the combined PO option, and I'll show you that. For certain things like disposables, vendors that have like a ton of items, and maybe they carry a bunch of different brands, or they carry things that are in several different departments, I will sometimes break those up. So, like Demand Vape, I might only run a report that just has disposables on it, and I'll make one purchase order that just has disposables. And right here, I'll name the company purchase order, I'll call it disposables. That way, Cody and Zach or whoever is about to work on the order, they know which purchase order to look at. Like Demand Vape, I might order 5 or 6 different times throughout the month because I get e-cigs, I get disposables, I get e-juice, I get different brands from them, and I don't want to place all of it all at one time. So I'll break that report up, and maybe I'll just order Geek Bar or one brand or whatever, and I'll call this one the Geek Bar order, and I'll just name this purchase order the Geek Bar PO. That way they know which invoice to look at, or which purchase order to look at based off the invoice they have in their hand. It just makes it a lot easier for them. Also, A to Z, this would be a good one. That would be a good one to break up too. So if you wanted to just do, tobacco, and you want to create just one purchase order just with all the tobacco, that will cut down probably a lot of time, a lot of, it takes quite a while to order that stuff. So you could do drinks on one purchase order. You could do, the wraps on one. You could do just, game and Dutch Masters on one purchase order. You can just have multiple purchase orders for one time that you go there, for one visit, So you could just break these up like, hey, this is only my tobacco, and just call it your tobacco. And down here, you just filled in all the blanks off of that report. And when you hit print, you'll just take that with you to A to Z. And you don't need to take all of your Excel sheets. You could just take this printable purchase order. I'm just going to call this demo so people don't think it's a real purchase order. But when you hit save and you have that print PO selected, you hit save and exit, do combine PO. This is the piece of paper that's going to print out, except it's going to be much more readable. So if you're in A to Z and you're shopping by brand, you can have all of this sorted by Dutch Masters, and you can have one purchase order of just Dutch Masters, and you can just have multiple of these pages, and you can see, oh, I need 5 and 5 and 5 and 10 and blah, blah, blah. And as you're shopping, just circle this number and keep going down the list. I don't know if that'll help, but to me, that seems easier instead of having to look at all the Excel sheets. I mean, these are the actual items that are in Celerant, and it's exactly what you want to place, or what you want to order. And the purchase order is already created. You don't have to go shopping for it, bring it into the warehouse, and then create a purchase order. You wouldn't really have to do that anymore. But yeah, I think that is about it. You can close that print job. This is just your import page. You can close that too. You don't need it anymore. Your file that you had saved right here, the one that I have called endless, you can delete that now. You don't need it anymore. So just right click, delete, or you can hit your delete button on the keyboard. And that'll also keep your downloads folder pretty cleared out. I mean, this is a lot of stuff from mine. It looks very full, but if it's just reports that I'm pulling out of Celerant, I usually delete them every single day. As soon as I'm done with the import, I don't need them anymore. I delete them. It kind of keeps my computer cleared out, and it just makes it easier to find stuff in here. But yep, this is a long video, and I'm sure there'll be questions. So let me know if you have any questions. But that's pretty much how I do my ordering. Hopefully makes things quicker for everybody else once you get the hang of it. I know it's a lot of steps, but to me, it's easier, and maybe it'll help. All right.